Cyberpunk 2077 has received a lot of praise over the years. What was once the most hated game of the time became beloved by millions of gamers across the world. This is thanks to various different amazing aspects about the game. Things such as the visuals, acting, story, and music created an amazingly unique atmosphere that all of these players fell in love with. There's just one gameplay feature that I feel like people aren't really talking about enough, and a gameplay feature that I feel like every single RPG should try to integrate into their game in some way. What is that feature? Well, it is the way the game handles dialogue. The way Cyberpunk handles dialogue is extremely unique, and I don't think I've ever seen another game that does dialogue choices in this way. But before we jump into why Cyberpunk's dialogue sequences are so great, we need to look at the way other RPGs handle dialogue. Just to be clear, when I'm talking about the dialogue sequences, I'm not talking about the dialogue choices themselves. Cyberpunk honestly does not do the best in that regard. A vast majority of the decisions you make don't really matter in the end. No, what I'm talking about is the way these sequences play out. As gaming has become more and more like blockbusters, immersion has become much more of a talking point within the gaming community. People want to become fully engrossed in these worlds, and a big thing that helps with that immersion is having everything flow naturally. RPGs, or role-playing games, are all about immersion. They're about playing the role of somebody who lives within that fictional world, hence the role-playing in the name. Obviously, all RPGs, or most at least, have the dialogue tree system, a system in which you're given a list of things to say to certain NPCs in certain cutscenes. Of course, the things you say or choices you make may affect the future of your playthrough and the relationship you have with the character you're talking to. You all know the deal. Decisions are pretty much a universal feature across all RPGs, and one thing that also seems to be pretty universal is the static nature of most of these scenes. A vast majority of RPGs, whether that be Mass Effect, Skyrim, Starfield, or Baldur's Gate, have static camera angles and animations during these dialogue sequences. Your character and the character you're talking to often just stand in one spot during the entire conversation. It's a minor thing, but it's something that has always bugged me when it comes to these games, and has ruined my immersion because of the fact that I'm thinking about it so much. Because nobody does this. Nobody just stands directly in front of someone while talking to them without moving. These dialogue sequences have been approached in multiple different ways in the past. In some games, it's more like a cutscene where the camera cuts from the player to the NPC with each line. And in others, the dialogue is done fully in first person, with the camera slightly zooming in on the NPC's face. But all of these different approaches have the same underlying issue. It's just too static. And this is where Cyberpunk comes in. Obviously, if you've ever played Cyberpunk, you'd know that the entire game is played in first person. There isn't even a third person option. What Cyberpunk does with its dialogue sequences is it uses its camera to its advantage to make these sequences play out in a much more natural and immersive way. The characters in the conversation are no longer just standing static talking to each other. These characters are actually moving around, idling, interacting with the environment around them, which makes these NPCs feel like real people and not like expressive robots. Take this scene, for example. We're eating at a dinner table with River and his family, and it all just feels very real. We're able to look around and see all of the family members interacting with each other and interacting with the props in the scene as well. All of them are doing these things naturally. It doesn't feel like a back and forth, you talk then I talk thing. The best way I can describe it is it feels like an actual cinematic cutscene, except you are in it. You are controlling the character in it. It's just really cool, and it makes all of these interactions feel much more personal, which is why I feel like every single RPG should try to integrate something like this into their games. I'm not saying to make every RPG first person, obviously, because that's just absurd, but I do want more RPGs to have the NPCs interact with the environment, have the camera move more. Just have these dialogue sequences feel more like cutscenes, have them feel more natural. It benefits Cyberpunk so much because it really heightens the immersion within the game, which is why I feel like it is Cyberpunk's most underrated feature. It does a lot for the game, which is why I'm surprised that more people aren't talking about it. This is something that should be celebrated more. And with that about concludes this video. I hope you all enjoyed watching me ramble about dialogue sequences in RPGs. And if you did, please hit the subscribe and like button. Thanks for watching, I hope you all enjoy this video, and I'll see you all next time.